This daily drawing exercise is one of the old gateposts, original gateposts to a very large open green space area in the heart of Sydney known as the Domain. It was a bit of a soapbox corner through the 60s and the 70s. It's used for all manner of things now, concerts, but a lot of the time, most of the time, it's just a lovely green open space that adjoins the Sydney Botanical Gardens. And this was one of the original gateposts, and you can see the gatehouse just to the right. It was extraordinarily difficult. I thought it was a lovely little subject, but in fact it really needs to be drawn quite precisely to look the same as in the reference. These long, almost triangular pieces around the base of the gateposts were really quite tricky, and my lines really aren't even straight enough. And it's leaning a bit towards the right. So really the biggest challenge was trying to keep the proportions correct. Look, in the end, I think it probably flares out too much, my one, just a little bit, but enough, I think, now watching it being drawn again from this distance, from having drawn it and not looking at a sheet of paper but looking at a screen, I can certainly see a lot of the proportion and scale issues. And now we have the fancy carving on the top. And so at this stage, I'm not sure how I'm going to finish this drawing, whether I'm going to put hatching on it or not. And so I do the line work for this decoration as if it's going to be just left alone without anything on it. So just trying to work out the best way to capture. Getting these overhangs where the left and the right side of this upper band that I've just drawn, how much it overhangs and where it overhangs, the base underneath, they're the sorts of observational details it's important to make carefully. Now, of course, I'm just drawing the approximate decorative elements on this, in effect, capital top. It's in a way transforming the gatepost into a column with a nice carved capital on top. And then, of course, on the left-hand side, the decoration is severely foreshortened, so it's really best to forget what we've drawn on the front and just try and firstly capture the silhouette as accurately as we can, and then just the major shapes. So here I am just trying to check my alignment and doing now the bottom of the metal capping where the actual lamp sits. Now, except for the fact that my gatepost leans to the right slightly, I'm reasonably happy with the proportions. But what I do now is I live in fear of doing lamps such as this too small. And so, of course, I overcompensate now in this drawing by making it too large. And I did actually make it smaller, and I should have stuck with my original dimensions. And I'll just show you in a moment where that was. So there's the base, just trying to work out. So that was my original top for the actual lamp. And then when I put the sides on, I was thinking it was too small. And so I add another band. Originally that was going to be the top of that band, but then I add another line thinking I can disguise the lower line with what we see through the lamp on the other side. So now my lamp is much taller. And the sides also, I think, angle out too far, too wide, which makes it proportionately wider at the top, which, given the fact that it's too high, really does cause the disproportionate size. Not much can be done about it now, though. But certainly it's not quite as elegant as the reference that we have with the somewhat more modest style. So just doing some of these details, again, keeping it fairly quick and gestural. And now I'm starting to think, what am I going to do? I had actually thought that I'd use marker tone on this, but by the time I actually got to the point of being about to do it, I somehow managed to forget that and was trying to work out how I would do hatching. Would I do the lines horizontally or vertically? And I thought if I, in the end, did them horizontally, they would stand out more clearly. Now, for the actual pseudo capital that we have here, I'm not really hatching them in any one direction. I'm curving them in a few directions to try and indicate the general curvature of the capital. And so just trying to think vertical, horizontally, diagonally, how's it going to look? I decided to go with vertically, and I want to do more hatching on that, if you like, center band than the one to the right, where there's more bouncing light, making it just a bit lighter. And then suddenly I remember that I'd seen recently someone else do hatching between some tape, and I thought, well, why not give it a go? And so if you've never done it, why not give it a go if you do this exercise? And of course, I didn't quite have it in all the places I needed to have it, and I had it in some of the places I didn't want to have it. But it certainly is a way of speeding up the drawing process and the hatching process if we do want accuracy. My concern was that it would be too much in a straight line, but I don't think that was the case. Now, I did notice that when you lift it, it does lift some of the ink sometimes as well. So I've just moved it across now to the left slightly so that I can do a darker layer on that section that I wanted to be just a little bit darker, not hugely darker, but just a little bit darker. And then there's a shadow now, which it makes sense to put on the ground now that I've got some shade on the front. And just working out the last of the detailing. Look, I've often looked at these as I've walked through these gates into the domain along a pathway that leads to the Art Gallery of New South Wales and then views of Sydney Harbour beyond. It's a beautiful spot, and I've always thought they were so elegant. I just wish I'd done a more elegant drawing of them though. G'day, I'm Stephen Travers. But look, perhaps you can. Why not go to my channel community page and get a copy, a screenshot if you like, of this photo and have a go drawing it yourself. And maybe you can just keep your lamp on top a little bit smaller and more nicely, more neatly proportioned. But look, whatever you draw and however you draw it, make sure you have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.